Page 23. And I just want to ask you to turn to page 24, the last few paragraphs, 4 or 5 paragraphs. So this is what was. Perhaps you could read it into the record from that paragraph that begins with, as a result of the excellent performance, the political killing task team has been assigned to another presidential intervention project.
Okay, I quote on this annex: as a result of the excellent performance, the political killings task team has been assigned in another presidential intervention project. I can name a few: the killing of the traditional leaders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the murders that happened in the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. Since the establishment of this political killings task team in July 2018, the team has been investigating a total of 612 case dockets. These case dockets include murders, attempted murders, intimidation, conspiracy to commit murders, and other cases. A total of 436 suspects were arrested and charged. 156 firearms were recovered, of which 55 of them were linked directly with a ballistic bullet through a forensic testing to the political related cases. An additional 35 suspects who are members of the South African Police Service were arrested. The notable one is the one who is now in prison, who has been working with a parliamentarian who was involved in the murder about the murder of one Cindy Somakaka. We are going to talk about that later. A total of 128 accused were found guilty on 106 cases. 29 accused were sentenced to life in prison. 40 accused were sentenced between 10 to 35 years. 25 accused were sentenced between 1 to 9 years. 23 accused were sentenced between 3 to 12 months.
And then while you have that annexure there on page 25, and this is, I reference this because this is where it appears the team operates outside of the KZN. On page 25 of that annexure, almost in the middle of the page, that sentence begins with, in the year 2024, a request was received from Gauteng, an organized crime investigating unit. Do you want to read that or discuss that with us?
Yeah, well, I can indicate that in 2024, the Gauteng organized crime unit were investigating a case. That case then resulted into the threats that were directed towards the investigation team. And that threat was also requested, the threat assessment and the support to the investigation team was also requested by the prosecutor that was working on the case. And subsequent to that, crime intelligence were invited to conduct a threat assessment in Gauteng. And when the threat assessment was confirmed against those detectives that were working on that case, then there were recommendations that the South African Police Service tactical units of Gauteng must provide protection to the members that were working on that case. And then crime intelligence decided to deploy counterintelligence teams to investigate further on these threats. And when they conducted that further investigation on the threat, they discovered that the threat was actually coming from some criminal syndicates that are running, that are within that province of Gauteng. As a result of that, then crime intelligence decided to register a case to investigate as part of counterintelligence investigation. And from there, because of this threat that was identified towards the investigators, and also further assessment of the threat, there was also an identification of an infiltration of some of the members of the team that were assigned to protect these detectives. They were infiltrated as well. So when that came to the fore, identified by counterintelligence, Then the divisional commissioner felt that maybe he should invite the assistance of the task team in KZN to help with that part of the investigation. That is when that engagement was made and the approval was then granted that at least 10 members from this task team must go and assist in Gauteng with that investigation.
And who would the divisional commissioner have been to make that request to assist?
It was the same General Khumalo as a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence and also a project lead of the task team, but knowing that he cannot just take members from the task team and send them where he needed to, so he had to ask for the members to come and assist on the investigation within crime intelligence.
Did that not create a conflict between his position as the head of crime intelligence and also the project leader of the PKTT?
No, it did not.
Why do you say that?
He's a police officer. He works within the rules of the SAPS. That's why I'm saying that it did not, because he did not just take members from the political task team and deploy them somewhere else. He understood that these members from the political task team, they are assigned to work specific project. So if you want to make use of them, he must ask for permission for that to happen. Hence, he approached me, and hence the request to the National Commissioner before those members were released. So that's why I'm saying that there was no conflict between the two, because he asked for it.
So in what capacity did he approach you? You at the time, the provincial commissioner of KZN?
He approached me in his capacity as a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence, because the case he was investigating was registered within crime intelligence. So it was a crime intelligence project.
Well, just looking at the statement, it wasn't it the Gauteng case? Didn't this create any jurisdictional issues?
No, the South African Police Service operates in the corners of the Republic of South Africa, so there's no jurisdiction.
But at the time when the matter was being created, this is being headed by senior police within Gauteng, and especially in the organized crime unit. Who would have been the head of the Gauteng organized crime unit?
Okay, maybe let me clarify that part. This, when it initially started, it was a case of organized crime Gauteng, which means it's a unit that falls under the Provincial Commission Gauteng. It's a one where there were threats on. The threats that even the prosecutor that was working on the case wrote a letter to the police management to make sure that the members are provided with security support. The Gauteng management requested crime intelligence to assist with the threat assessment. So crime intelligence provided, they helped them with the threat assessment, and the threat was confirmed. So therefore, Gauteng province had to take responsibility to protect these members, not crime intelligence. But because of what crime intelligence picked up when they're conducting the threat assessment, that seems to suggest that there looks to be some organized criminal activities that are behind this threat. Then crime intelligence registered a counterintelligence investigation. So it was no longer Gauteng or KwaZulu-Natal or Limpopo. It was a counterintelligence within crime intelligence that was registered in the office, at the crime intelligence office, not under the provincial commissioner, but under the divisional commissioner of crime intelligence. So this request for the TN to come over there, it was a case that was under counterintelligence, not under the province of Gauteng. So therefore, there is no jurisdiction. The accounting executive person that accounts on that investigation is General Khumalo himself.
And to what extent would this intervention to request some of the task team members to assist in Gauteng, to what extent, or let me ask the question, did this not also engage Lieutenant General Sabia, who's the head of the detectives, and all the detectives throughout the country, and in particular in Gauteng, are accountable to him?
Maybe, Honorable Chair, members, let me correct that last part.
Yeah, please do.
The JRLCB is not in charge of detectives in the country. Detectives, they fall under the provincial commissioners. So provincial commissioners are in charge of detectives. But there's a small amount of them that falls under the division, which is a divisional commissioner in charge of detectives, not the Deputy National Commissioner. But that is just correction that I wanted to make. I don't want to get deeper, Honorable Chair and members, on the how part in terms of what General Khumalo did as he was starting that investigation on the counterintelligence. Who did he engage with? JRSB is his commander. Did he engage him or he did not engage him? I don't know, because I was not part of it. I'm just speaking on the third party as a person who was informed about what came about. But in terms of more detailed questioning with regard to the team, how it started and all that, I'll invite you to engage that with General Khumalo. But having said that, Honorable Chair members, I must warn you, I said this is a counterintelligence investigation. So what I know for a fact is that perhaps a joint standing committee of intelligence might be a better place to get to know the details in and out of how that investigation goes about. But having said that, I'm speaking under correction. Invite General Khumalo to talk to it.
Okay, Senior Counsel. Thank you so much.
Honorable Chair.
Yeah. We are an hour since you started. And I see members have been taking notes every time you ask a question. Just to check with the members if there will be any clarity seeking question based on the questions that you have asked here. Can I rotate?
Chair, I hate to come through a point of order. Can I?
Yeah.
I think we agreed that today is the evidence leader and the general. And that if there is anything that requires agent intervention, it will be brought to attention.
Yeah.
So if no one brings anything to attention, please don't disrupt this. Because no one did anything. We were fine. We agreed evidence leader today with the general, and then tomorrow we will come with our questions. Unless the general is not audible or the question from the evidence leader is not clear, then that will be brought to attention. But for now, I think we're fine. We agreed that.
There was a member who raised a hand. That is why I'm checking with all of you so that it must not appear like I'm advantaging one member. So every time there is a member who raises a hand, it becomes an opportunity to all of you to check if you want to clarify anything. Chief Whip.
No, thanks, Chair. No, I think firstly we have clarified the issue that I suppose Honorable Malema was had forgotten. There was a principal position that even today there may be instances where some among us require clarification on certain matters. But I think what was not established, I saw on the group when you were saying after an hour at 4:20, you will check whether we've got questions. I think what we did not establish is the manner in which that is going to be handled. What I suggest, Chair, in agreeing with you, is that in instances where any of us has got a question of clarity to make, let's allow that member through you, by show of hand, allow them to raise a question. And I suggest that so that we don't delay and disrupt the proceeding, you don't make it an automatic opportunity for all of us, because that on its own might delay the proceedings. But if somebody raises his hands or her hand, you are perfectly able to recognize them and let them speak for that few seconds and get clarity, and we proceed. Thank you.
Can I check, honorable members, during this window there is no hand? Okay. Thank you very much, Senior Counsel. We can proceed.
General, just without wanting to get into any detail, so this counterintelligence that you mentioned to us, were you privy to that from Brigadier Khumalo? Or was that also off limits to you?
Honorable Chair and members, in this instance, we're going to refer to him as General Khumalo. He was a brigadier in 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, he's now a general. General Khumalo was slowly briefing me about when he started why he wanted these 10 members, but without giving the details. So I think as time went by, I started getting to know the details of what is happening with that investigation. Initially, I was not much informed about what was it about, but I became aware by default because of the letter of 31st of December that was directed towards affecting my environment. That's what led me to starting to get to know exactly what's happening in Gauteng.
Now, your press briefing on the 6th of July appears to indicate, and we'll deal with it in a bit more detail, that this is a national malaise within the South African Police Service, the infiltration of the service, the infiltration of the entire criminal justice system, all those allegations that you make. But you appear both at the press conference and in your statement, you appear only to reference or to refer to the examples of KZN and Gauteng. Is there a reason why you only do that, or is it also your evidence that this is widespread and is a national problem?
Honorable Chair, members, yes, I did address South Africans on the 6th of July 2025. I might have made a reference on incidents that seems to be affecting directly KZN and Gauteng, but I did during the press brief indicate that the criminality that exists does not only function within these two provinces, but it affects the rest of the country. Honorable Chair and members, what informed me, part of it, we are sitting in a province where one fellow police officer was traced by criminals and killed when he arrived home. May his soul rest in peace. And when we saw what was then happening at the time, we then realized that a part of the problems that the members in the Western Cape were fighting for are pretty much involved in Gauteng. They stretch from Western Cape to Gauteng. And we have many examples of them. The late general who was in this province dealing with gangsters had traced the involvement of illegal issuing of firearms by our very own Farm Control Office in Pretoria, illegal issuing of firearms to the criminals in Gauteng. And there's criminals in Gauteng that are involved in drugs, and the drugs that the Gauteng team is part of, and the drugs that do come from the borders of our country, which it's in many provinces. And so it's not necessarily a problem that was a KZN and Gauteng province. It's a problem that involved the rest of the country.
Now there's a board that is established, which is composed or comprised of all the senior officers, headed obviously by the National Commissioner, provincial commissioners, and also divisional heads. Is that right?
You talk about the Board of Commissioners?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
And how often do you meet?
Ideally, it sits on quarterly basis, but sometimes the meetings get deferred in case of emergencies, there are ad hoc specific meetings that are called in between.
So are or have these national or these issues which you say also applies nationally, have they been raised there? Have they been discussed there? And if so, were any strategies devised to deal with them?
Which things, if I may ask, Honourable Chair, specific you're referring to?
Well, I started off by asking you whether the issue between KZN and Gauteng and this issue where the PKTT members were seconded to Gauteng to assist, to protect, and the cartel, the drug cartel in Gauteng, whether this is only limited to that province, or whether it's also a malaise that affects the rest of the country, and you seem to indicate that is the case, and you also reference the Western Cape, and we know of the notorious gang culture here. So I'm asking whether these issues are discussed at that board level where all the senior police officers are there and you can raise these issues so that you can obviously address them, and if they are so serious that you find some way of dealing with them.
Yes, Honourable Chair and members, the Board of Commissioners has a specific agenda that it works on, and the agenda of the BOC will involve the discussions with regard to the crime in the country. We will talk about the matters that are coming from the operational section of the police, which is referred to as the National Crime Combating Forum. We will discuss matters that are coming from the administration side of the police. So majority of the issues, intelligence briefing is part of the agenda items. So matters that the Honourable the SC is asking in relation to the cases that the political or the organized counterintelligence that we're investigating in Gauteng are part of those discussions that are taking place within the BOC through the NOC and intelligence briefings, but not in details. That's on a high level. The detailed part in terms of project on on operations are discussed within the National Crime Combating Operations structure.
And would there, when was the last such meeting?
The Board of Commissioners meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. I will have to remember. I've been so busy since July to date. But it did happen, I think, at the beginning of this financial year. I'll remember the date. It could probably be around June or so. There was a meeting that took place. But I can give you the date if you really want to know the last meeting.
Well, not necessarily, but I just wanted to ask or establish or ascertain whether such a meeting was held where these issues could be raised before you went public on the 6th of July.
You're talking about the issues that are raised in public. Yeah. Definitely those issues were not for the BOC.
Why?
Maybe I should share the agenda item for the BOC, then it would be easier for you to understand what does a BOC discuss and what does a National Crime Combating Forum discuss, and what other different forums we have in the police, what is it that they discuss. These which I spoke about on the 6th of July were matters of strictly within intelligence space, if I can use that word, but were matters that were affecting the work of the PKTT. The PKTT only working in KZN. And the only person that will know about the works of the PKTT other than Gerald Khumalo will be the National Commissioner. And the rest of the other people, you bring a provincial commissioner of Northern Cape, of Western Cape, and you bring the PKTT into the agenda item of the meeting that these provincial commissioners are attending, it doesn't concern them much, the issues of PKTT. So those activities that we ended up talking about on the 6th of July are experiences and things that were picked up during the investigations that were conducted at the counterintelligence operation that was running in Gauteng. And subsequent to the letter of the disbandment of the team that was signed on the 31st of December.
Senior Counsel, I have a request from the members that you should speak closer to the microphone.
Oh, was on. Can you hear me now? Sure. Sorry. Maybe I lost my voice this morning.
The members are the ones who must indicate to me if they hear you.
Thank you. So General, perhaps it's then appropriate to move to the ministerial directive of the 31st of December 2024. Now, just before we get there, just so that we can get the chronology out of the way, up until that last interministerial committee meeting in, what was it now, September, November of 2023, the minister then would have been Minister Bheki Cele. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Would you say that he was a supporter of the PKTT?
The Minister of Police, together with other ministers that were assigned by the President, they were quite satisfied with the work that the team was doing. I wouldn't say he was a supporter. This is no football claim. This is the police work.
Yeah. And then in 2024, we have the general elections, and subsequent to that, we have the formation of the GNU, and we have the appointment of a new minister, Minister Senzo Mkhwanazi. What was your response, if any, when you heard that he had been appointed as the Minister of Police?
I did not respond to anything. I took note.
Do you or did you know him at the time of his appointment?
Yeah, well, beside knowing the minister as the former premier of the province where I come from, but I had personally met him in his own house prior, I would say, few weeks before his appointment to the police. I was privileged to meet with him in his own house.
What was the occasion of that meeting?
It was a meeting arranged by the Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde. He personally wanted to introduce me to the Minister of Water Affairs. So I drove with him into his house, and we met, we drank coffee, and then we got to know each other. That was that.
So, but this is, when you talk about the Chief of Staff, this is
Mr. Nkabinde.
Mr. Nkabinde, who subsequently was appointed Chief of Staff when
That's correct.
Mr. Mkhwanazi was appointed. So,
Yes.
So at the time, Nkabinde wasn't yet the Chief of Staff.
Yeah, well, I was unemployed at the time.
Was he not employed? Was he unemployed?
Unemployed. Not employed, unemployed, see.
So, and you obviously knew him, Mr. Nkabinde.
Yes, I did.
How did you know him? What was your relationship with him?
I got to know Mr. Nkabinde because he was working at IPET and he was close to the one investigator within IPET, Mr. Nhlanhla, who was working with him at the time, the late Mr. Nhlanhla, who was a brother to a colleague of mine who was working in the police, was a brigadier in the police. So I then eventually got to know Nkabinde through him, and then we became close with Nkabinde as well.
And Nkabinde, did he do any service in the police?
Nkabinde is a former policeman. He left the South African Police Service as a junior member as an investigator, and was recruited by IPID, and he worked at IPID for many years, and then he left IPID, and he was unemployed after that.
What was his rank in SAPS when he was at SAPS?
I'm not sure exactly, but he was holding a junior rank. I think he was an uncommissioned officer, perhaps between the rank of sergeant and a warrant officer. But I'm speaking under correction. I'm sure if he's invited, he'll be able to give his profile. But he was one of the junior members when he left the service.
And what was the reason that he left SAPS?
I think it was greener pastures to go to IPID. It was a higher position that he applied for.
So he became an IPID. Who headed IPID at the time?
Mr. Robert McBride was the boss of IPID at the time.
And what would have been the reason why Mr. Nkabinde left IPID? Did he leave IPID? Was he dismissed? What was his reason for leaving?
Honorable Chair and members, I wouldn't necessarily know the details. Perhaps he will elaborate on that. I can only speak about what he told me. Of course, it was not under oath. He was talking to me as a person that was close to. His words to me was that he couldn't stand the wrong that is happening at IPID. Between his boss, Mr. Robert McBride, together with a famous Paul O'Sullivan, and the current head of IDEC investigation, Advocate Sisoko. He was just not happy with how they were doing business at IPID at the time.
So he resigned, that seems, according to you, out of frustration.
What I know is that there were issues that he was resigning and they were charging him departmentally. So there was quite a fight between him and management of IPID at the time.
And in particular, did you mention a fight between him and McBride and Paul O'Sullivan?
Well, I know of Paul O'Sullivan because he was very vocal in the media against Nkabinde. So I don't know about Mr. McBride exactly what was the issue because, I never spoke to him. Like I'm saying, I'm taking from what Nkabinde was telling me. Whether is that the fact or not, I do not know. If he comes here and come and explain, and Mr. McBride come and explain, perhaps Mr. Sisoko, Advocate Sisoko comes and explain, they might shed light as to what was the reason and how did they part ways with Nkabinde. But what I know is that there was trouble there that involved him and eventually left him.
And after he left IPID, was he unemployed for a period, or did you assist him in finding another job?
Yeah, well, he was unemployed at the time, so he was just engaging on his own. I couldn't get him a job. I'm a civil servant, so I couldn't afford to, I did not have contacts to help him get a job. But I know that he was unemployed. I just cannot remember the duration, but he was unemployed for some time, up until he received that phone call from the minister to appoint him as a chief of staff, where he shared with me as well.
Now, before his appointment there, you were close friends, did you say?
Well, he was a person that I was acquainted to. I was talking to him more often. He will share a lot of things, especially with regard to the work he was doing at IPID. So I ended up knowing more about those things. But in terms of his private life, what he does, I know he goes to church. Which church he goes to, I don't know. So I'm not that close to him to get to know those other private part of him. But in terms of the professional side of things, I got to know him. I said I knew him because of his colleague, Mr. Nhlanhla, who was working with him. So the relationship between me and him was more of a colleague relationship we had.
Okay. And the meeting that he arranged for you to meet with then Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mkhwanazi, how did that come about? Did you know that Nkabinde has a relationship, or what was his relationship with Minister Mkhwanazi, then Minister of Water and Sanitation?
Honorable Chair and members, the Senior Counsel is asking me some of the things that is asking are not necessarily in my statement, but I will talk to it because I took an oath, although they are not here, but they can be investigated and proven to be correct. Honorable Chair members, what the SC is asking me about what Mr. Nkabinde told me about how he got to know the Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mchunu. Of course, it's something I'm going to present here, which I still need to establish myself the facts of what he had told me, which I have not finalized it yet. I'm still part of establishing the facts. But the fact is, he and Mr. McBride had flown, they took a flight from Gauteng, and they landed in Durban, and they traveled from Durban to Mbange at the minister's residence. And they went to meet the minister to go and tell him about the criminal investigation that the two of them were busy with at IPID. And it will appear that at the time that the minister might have been implicated on that case. But the two of them had somehow have some working arrangement with the minister. That's what brought the three of them close to each other. That's how the relationship came about. Well, I didn't believe much of what he told me. He mentioned that, and of course I asked, I said, but what type of a case, what is this that we're busy with? And he said there was a death of someone in KZN, and the minister at the time was accused to have interfered with the destruction of an evidence, a crucial evidence that was there. And that led into, because there was a police officers, bodyguards that were involved, that were working with the minister at that time when he was a premier. That led into the involvement of IPID, because IPID will ordinarily investigate cases that involve police. So that's how IPID came involved in that case, because there was a complaint of the police involvement on the wrong. So in their investigation, it led into some degree an act that the premier at the time have done wrong. That what made them to be close to each other. But as to the reason why they never arrested the premier at the time, I don't have the details of it. As I say, it's part of the things that I'm still making inquiries on, because he had not given me the case number at the time when he was telling me that. He just mentioned that that's how they got to know each other. The relationship started from there. To my surprise is that there is a one former chief of staff of the police, of the Minister of Police at the time, who also confirmed the same thing to me recently, not a few weeks ago. He said that Mr. Nkabinde shared the same thing with him. So that made me realize that means the relationship between him and the minister was formed out of an investigation that Nkabinde was doing. That's how they got to know each other. Because at the time Nkabinde was not a politician. Although of late I see him wearing political party t-shirts, but he was not a politician at the time.
And was it at the time that Minister Mkhunu was the Minister of Water and Sanitation, or was it at the time that he was the Premier? We know he was the Premier of KZN.
Are you talking about when they got to know each other?
Yeah, this other incident. I think earlier you mentioned the word Premier.
I'm saying that the incident.
Yes.
Allegedly happened at the time when the minister was a premier. But I think the time when Mr. Nkabinde, together with Mr. Robert McBride, according to Nkabinde's words, not mine, when they went to meet with the minister, he was no longer a premier at the time. So I do not know where he was a minister of water or was minister of public service, but he was no longer a premier when they met with him. So that's how the relationship started. The two of them. Otherwise, the minister did not know Nkabinde, and Nkabinde didn't know the minister, but their relationship started on the day.
So when this phone call happened between you and Nkabinde, was Nkabinde unemployed?
Which phone call, sir?
To set up this meeting with the minister who was then Minister of Water and Sanitation, where you had coffee with the minister. You were invited to his house.
Yeah, he was unemployed, yes. Nkabinde, when he took me to the minister.
Yeah,
Nkabinde was not working at all.
So was that call coming from him, or was that a request that you made of him to go and meet with the minister?
No, it was Nkabinde that wanted me, since I'm a provincial commissioner in the province and he knows the minister, so he wanted after he told me how they got to know each other, they're very close, he wanted to demonstrate to me that they are indeed close. So I drove with him, and I didn't have a problem in getting to the minister. So that's how I got to meet the minister.
And what business did you have to discuss with the minister in your capacity as the provincial commissioner?
No, nothing. It was just get to know the minister. I'm here. I'm a provincial commissioner here. I know that you're close to Nkabindi. He told me that you are close to each other. That's why we're here today. So other than that, there was nothing else. We just sat there and we talked general, and from there we left.
What was your impression of the minister at the time?
Well, I was convinced that the two of them know each other very well, him and Nkabinde. And then because Nkabinde told me that they are close, I had to get a confirmation on the day that indeed they are close. So that's why when the minister phoned him, allegedly, when he called him to ask him to be his chief of staff, Nkabinde phoned me and he asked me, what does chief of staff do? Because he had no clue what's the chief of staff.
When did Nkabinde tell you that he was the chief of staff or was going to be appointed chief of staff?
Yeah, he said the minister wants him to be a chief of staff. He wants to appoint him as a chief of staff, and he had no clue what is a chief of staff.
And was that before the minister was appointed minister of?
Before he was sworn in.
Before he was sworn in.
That's correct.
So how long before the minister was sworn in as Minister of Police did Nkabinde tell you that Minister Nkunu was going to be appointed?
Yeah, no, I will not remember the date. But I think it was before the official announcement was made, because it was in the evening when he phoned me.
What was your reaction?
The first was the chief of staff does administration, and I believe you're a policeman. I don't know whether you're going to deal with administration things on one side. On the other side, whether you know how to give advices on strategic issues of departments. At the time, I knew the minister was working in water affairs. And I asked him, so if you're going to give advice on ministers on issues of water affairs, I don't know what you know about that business and so forth. So then it came out later that actually he was not going to Home Affairs, he was coming to the police.
So when the announcement was made that Senzo Mkhunu was going to be appointed Minister of Police, you were not surprised?
Yeah, well, I'm never surprised on any appointment, so it didn't bother me. It's the president that decides, so there's no expectations, so therefore there's no surprise.
Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson, may we have a short comfort break? And also the other issue I asked you offline, because we scheduled to have a meeting with General Sabia at 6. So one of us will have to attend to that meeting.
I want us to push until very late. No, it's just on a lighter note. I grant you the comfort break.
Thank you. And it's just a short break.
No,
Ms. Mkhwanazi to
I'm giving
you stuff and
the other details you will share with me. I'm giving you 15 minutes, honorable members.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, General. We are going to have a comfort break for 15 minutes.